Hello! Hello! I think you guys are doing great. And, yeah, how we doing? Everything is all right? Everyone can hear me? Okay, I am recording, so, before I forget, there is the course evaluation that is currently out there. I think it's on your Blackboard or email or something like that. If you get a chance, it only takes a couple minutes, and give some feedback on that. Whether you like it or don't like it, it's important, and it's good for the course and all that kind of stuff. So when you get a chance. All right, now we just finished that one there, and as well, you guys still have everything there as far as your pre-test go. There's your questions and answers there for those guys there. This comes directly from your textbook, so it's good stuff. You guys also have the answers there to the study guide. And you guys got movies and all this kind of stuff coming out the ears. So I think you guys are sorted. Let me get on with this here. Now, there we go. Okay, here we go. Function of the blood vessels. Well, I think we've kind of covered that, but we're just going to go into a little bit more detail. And you can see there's only about 20 slides, so give us half an hour, we'll be in and out. 5 functions of blood vessels. We're going to talk a little bit about blood pressure, okay? Describing the measurement of blood pressure, systolic over diastolic. What is normal blood pressure, or what is considered normal blood pressure is not normal anymore. Normal blood pressure for the longest time was 120 over 80, right? Medical practitioners, where they liked 120 over 80 is actually considered a little high. All right, they like it 115 over 75. Or even down even a little lower. But please consult your doctor before performing any type of physical. Don't believe me on anything like that. Where we go. We're going to explain the variance of blood pressure in different blood vessels, which we've kind of talked about already, right? The aorta, arterioles, capillaries, veins. You can kind of see what's going on there as far as blood pressure. Okay? Factors that determine blood pressure, and we'll see. Explain the mechanism involved in the regulation of blood pressure. Baroreceptor reflex. Aha! There is a movie on that. We're going to explain how blood vessels act as exchange vessels. How do nutrients get in and out? Okay. We're explain how they change there to the body's needs. We'll talk about some regulations. So away we go. 5 functions of the blood vessels. I think we could probably do these, but maybe this one and maybe one or two of them will kind of shock you there. They act as delivery system. Yes. They regulate blood pressure. Okay. They keep it going. They have the ability, the kidneys they control. You can take drugs that will be vasodilators or vasoconstrictors. That should make sense to you now. Okay. So, drugs, the kidneys, all these things, they have the ability there to vasodilate. Okay, make the blood vessels more big, more open. Vasoconstrictors, to increase the blood pressure, right? But ultimately, it's the blood vessels who are doing the dilating, or the blood vessels that are doing the constricting. So it's the blood vessels that ultimately regulate the BP. Okay. They engage in exchange of nutrients and waste in the capillaries of the cell. They redistribute blood in response to changing body needs. Remember those pre-capillary sphincters? Okay. If there's an emergency and I need to get blood to my big toe, well, my right finger can wait. And they also help regulate body temperature. And wrong species, but it's a pretty good example. Elephants have these massive ears, right? Like this massive. And they're full of blood vessels. And what they'll do to cool themselves is all the blood eventually makes it to the ears, where it's very thin and the heat from the blood can escape, and in that way they're cooling the elephant. Okay, it works the same way, helps regulate body temperature as well. All right. Blood vessels they deliver. Okay, inadequate blood flow is something called ischemia. Okay, and what ischemia does is deprives the cells of oxygen. Okay, causing cell death. Not a good one. Blood pressure terminology. Blood pressure itself is the force of blood against the vessel wall. Now, what does that mean? Here you've got two forces at work when you're talking about blood pressure. Number one, you've got the heart, which is pumping. Okay? But then you've also got, and I talked about this there before, that the walls of the blood vessel are actually pushing back against the heart. And if you go back there to this, it's not even this slide, it's this one. Sorry, I'm just going to go back and show y'all. Thank you. No. That was the wrong one. That's what I'm looking for. And where were you? Come on. Hello, where's the one there with the fluid that we just saw there and it was pushing back? Yes, thank you. And you'll see here that the blood traveling through a nice clean pipe or a nice water traveling through a pipe or blood, and this isn't exactly true. The blood just doesn't get to flow freely in a nice clean blood vessel. Water doesn't just flow perfectly smoothly through a pipe. And because you think microscopically, the edge, like even though this blood vessel seems smooth, even though this pipe seems like a smooth surface, if you go microscopically, it looks like a craggly edge brick. It's rough as sandpaper. Okay? And the molecules of water, the RBCs are so small that they will hit the side of the pipe, and there will be this rolling and tumbling, and this is what we call the pressure, because the heart is pushing the blood through, and if there wasn't any pressure pushing back, the heart would have the easiest job ever. But what's causing the pressure to come back is this resistance. Heart is pushing the blood through, and the walls of the arteries are pushing back, and this is kind of a resistance. Okay, so getting back there to our other PowerPoint. Okay, so blood pressure is the force of the blood from the heart against the vessel walls, which are pushing back. Okay, so you got systolic pressure, which is the pressure in the large arteries, okay, at the peak of systole. Okay, that's contraction. You remember that there from last week's slides we were talking about the, remember we had the heart and the, systole means contraction. So diastolic pressure is the pressure in the large arteries during diastole, rest. So what's the pressure pushing back? What's the resistance here? Okay, so pulse pressure is the difference between the systolic and diastolic pressure. So if you see in this example here is 42. Okay. Normal range, and even this slide says it's 120 over 80. That's what we generally call normal pressure. And when we're just talking, having a coffee, what's normal blood pressure? 120 over 80. If you're a physician, you would say that this is still a little high. You want a little low, but a little lower. Consequences of hypertension. Hypertension. That's a good one. Okay. Stroke. Strain on the heart. There we go. Gotta turn that off there. Okay, so have a look at these there. You'll see that a stroke, okay, is a blockage. A pulmonary embolism is a blockage. It just happens in the lungs. Okay, these kinds of things. So if there's any type of stress on the heart, where there's some type of plaque on the inside, this whole process there can lead to all this. Strokes, heart attacks, We've got hypotension, okay? Inadequate perfusion of all organs there. And you'll have a look down here. We've got, why is hypertension called the silent killer? This all comes from your book. And this is all just food for knowledge. And I noticed there in your book there that I'm actually not, I'm pretty impressed. There's some good little articles in there. And the direction there that you guys want to go, I think that this is this book has really grown on me there in the past since I've been teaching this course. First time teaching this course here with this book. So, no, I like it. Measuring BP. And you see here we got picture A, picture B. Okay. Sorry, was there a question? Hello?
Yes. For test-wise, are we doing normal blood pressure at 120 over 80, or?
Yeah. Take it as that. I just gave you guys there because I want you guys to be healthier. And
Yeah, I know that's a good thing for the test.
Oh, yeah. 120 over 80, take it and run. Take it and run. So what we got here now, your brachial artery, okay, coming down your arm. And this is generally what they use there to measure BP. Okay, so blood pressure is frequently monitored in clinical situations, as we all know. Slide A here is just a shot of the blood is flowing through the brachial artery. Okay, and B picture here, the pressure from the cuff stops the blood flow from the artery. So that's what, you know what I mean? They inflate the cuff, right? And it stops the blood flow. So there's no blood down here, right? And then they release it. They can see the pressure at which, because you think the blood is coming down here at a certain pressure, right? Because it's coming from the heart. And we put the blood pressure cuff on there and we inflate it. And you know, it gets that squeeze, right? We have now overcome the pressure in the brachial artery, and we've overcome it enough to stop the blood flow completely. And then the medical practitioner will release the pressure. Not all at once, but will release it, right? And then there'll be a time, because the blood pressure cuff has too much pressure, so the brachial artery can't pump any blood. But then, and you'll see what happens right there. Now the brachial artery can start pumping, and then that's where we detect, right? Have a look at your book. Your book does a great job of this. You know what I mean? And honestly, go on YouTube, and I probably should have created a link here to find a good video. Find a 2-minute video on YouTube, and it just goes into it. And it's you guys will be doing this all the time. You guys will be doing this there in your sleep. Practice on your kids. Practice on your spouse. Hey, you know what? Become the master. Own it, you know, and have some fun with it, because it is fun. Good. So measuring the, so this was A and B. So here we've got C and D. These two slides there, as they are connected. Okay. Slide or picture C shows the recording of the systolic pressure, and the first sound of the Korotkov sound is heard. And this is the changing of the flow of the blood through the artery. All right. So have a look at that. That's an interesting one. All right. It's not too crazy. It takes 2 seconds. You'll see what it says down here. Panel C shows the recording of the cells. Okay. All right. And so have a look at those. D shows the recording of the diastolic pressure when the cuff is loosened and the brachial artery is opened, and the Korotkov sounds are absent or muffled. And these sounds here are just the sounds there, okay, from the releasing of the cuff. If you go back into I showed you guys there the differences there between an artery, you know how thick those suckers were, right? An arterial, right? Massive amounts of muscle around. And then you have the vein, which is just a flimsy, empty balloon. And you'll have a look here. This is a kind of an interesting slide. And it just shows you, like, here's your aorta, okay, your larger arteries, and then we get into our smaller arteries, arterioles, and then here's our capillaries, right? And this is gas exchange. We're coming down the Mississippi, and now we're going back up the Mississippi, right? The venule, the small veins, larger veins, and then your vena cava. And you'll see here the amount of pressure coming from the heart. It's just awesome. It's just, and so this is the pressure there coming out of the aorta right now in your aorta. And your aorta takes this pressure every single heartbeat. And you'll see there that as the Mississippi, all the tributaries start to form, you'll see there that the pressure starts to drop. But you see aorta, arteries, arterioles, still too massive pressure for any type of nutrient exchange. And then we drop right down to the capillaries, and here it's so slow moving, it's microscopic. Okay, so this is where RBCs are allowed to exchange in. And sorry, I'll show you guys more on that there for next week there for respiration, because there's two kinds of respiration. Here's my external respiration, where my lungs are exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide with the atmosphere. But then, once the oxygen gets into the blood, it travels around to my big toe, and then there's what is called internal respiration, where kind of the same process right here that I'm exchanging gas, externally. My big toe, there is internal respiration, where my big toe is changing oxygen and carbon dioxide nutrients there with the blood supply in the capillaries right there. So, but we'll get there. All right. And you remember the flimsy veins? There's no way. Like, the heart isn't even involved anymore. The heart basically stops. Like I said, the heart is responsible for getting the blood to my big toe, but it ain't responsible for getting the blood back to the right atrium. And how does that blood get back to the right atrium? Look at the pressure in the vena cava. Like, it's almost zero. You know what I mean? There's really no pressure at all. Like, when that blood comes into the right atrium from your superior and inferior vena cava, it just kind of limps in because there's no pressure. So there's how does that blood get back? It's with the veins there. You remember those flaps, right? While you moving, blood comes up, the flaps close, the blood comes down, and then shimmies up level by level until it gets back to the right atrium. So really interesting slide. I like it. From a testing point of view, I don't really know what I could do here, but this is just good general knowledge of what is going on at every stage of the CVS as far as pressure goes. Okay. You guys will have You guys will remember cardiac output there from last week. Okay, blood pressure. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you guys for any mathematics. All right. But blood pressure there is equal to the cardiac output, which I'll go into there in 2 seconds. Okay, and times your systemic vascular resistance. So this should make sense. That's the level of vocabulary that we are at now. Systemic means body. Vascular means vein. And resistance is resistance. That's the pushback on the walls of the vein. So blood pressure is equal to the amount of blood you're pushing out times the resistance coming back. All right? Good. What do we got going on here? The heart and blood vessel there, they determine the blood pressure, of course. The heart component of blood pressure is the cardiac output. We talked about this there last week. The cardiac output is determined by the heart rate times the stroke volume. Yeah, I would know these two formulas. I'm not going to ask you for any mathematics, I don't think. But maybe, because you've got these there. But definitely know these two formulas there in some way, or be able to recall them there next week. Oh, did I just say that? I gotta stop doing that. The stronger the force of contraction, okay, the heart there, the greater the stroke volume, the greater the cardiac output, and the higher the blood pressure. So, kind of all makes sense. Blood pressure there, resistance to flow. We've talked about resistance, okay? You have a look here, nozzle A and B. You change the resistance there to the flow. And you have a look here that here basically there isn't any resistance, right? It's just an open side. Sorry if you can't see that. Then we'll just blow it over. All right, so you see right here, but then you look at this one right here. Now we put a little nozzle on it now, and there's huge pressure, right? So which is why this water coming out is fast and has lots of pressure on it, right? It can go a lot farther, all right? So arterial C and D, you'll have a look here. These guys, as we said, the blood vessels are responsible for adjusting. Like, even though the kidneys are a big boss, they tell the blood vessels to constrict or open, but ultimately it is the blood vessels that do the restricting or do the dilating. Okay. So I told you there, this chapter 19 as compared to 18, it's kind of running over the same ground, but we'll do it anyway. Mechanisms of blood pressure regulation. Okay, a rapidly acting mechanism there called your baroreceptor reflex. And I think I have that movie. Now, where is that movie? Cells, skeletal. Sorry, give me 2 seconds here. Hopefully those nervous movies came in handy there for your assignment. Now, where's my baro? There's chemoreceptor reflex and baroreceptor reflex and pressure. Is that coming on?
Increased blood pressure stretches the carotid arteries and aorta, causing...
Sorry, can you guys hear that okay? Kind of. Sorry, I don't think the quality... Okay, all right. Okay, let's go.
Causing the baroreceptors to increase their basal rate of action potential generation. Action potentials are conducted by the glossopharyngeal and vagus nerves to the cardioregulatory and vasomotor centers in the medulla oblongata. As a result of increased stimulation from the baroreceptors, the cardioregulatory center increases parasympathetic stimulation to the heart, which decreases the heart rate. Also, as a result of the increased stimulation from the baroreceptors, the cardiovascular center decreases sympathetic stimulation to the heart, which decreases heart rate and stroke volume. The vasomotor center decreases sympathetic stimulation to blood vessels, causing vasodilation. The vasodilation, along with the decreased heart rate and decreased stroke volume, bring the elevated blood pressure back toward normal. If the initial problem were a decrease in blood pressure, the activities and effects of the baroreceptors, cardiovascular center, and vasomotor center would be the opposite of what is illustrated.
Very good. So think about it. Vasoconstriction causes an increase in BP, right? Because you've got less volume, but the same blood has got to go through, so you're increasing the pressure. Okay? Vasodilation, you are reducing the pressure, decreasing the pressure, okay? What do we got here? I wanted to, yes. So, have a look at that. Baroreceptors there. Know a little bit. There might be a question or two on that. Nothing too crazy. I'm not going to go into, just the whole idea of the nerve impulses and all that. If you're able to tell me what the baroreceptor, and you notice where it is, eh? It's right in the ascending aorta. So there's no fooling around here. You know what I mean? You can't get any closer to home. Okay? It monitors right there in the ascending aorta, even before the arch, because these things need to be monitored. Okay? There are hormones here, and we're going to get more into... I'm not worried about these ones here. Basically, the only two that I'm interested in, and I'll tell you this right now, are... I don't know what... That's what... There we go. Good. The only two that I'm interested in are these two. Okay. I have there are videos on both of these. You guys will remember ADH, antidiuretic hormone, there when we're talking about the kidneys. I don't know if we've really gone into a great amount of detail for the we call this the RAD. Anyway, the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, and I have lots on this, but I'm not really going to go into it right now. I'm going to save both of these for the kidney. All right. So knowing anything there from antidiuretic hormone that we've already covered, sure. But the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system we'll get more into there when we get into the kidneys, because it's a little bit more complex. Okay, but this is kidney material. We'll get you there, okay? What do we got here? Blood vessels act as exchange. And you'll see there that the capillaries, right, they don't have any of the outside muscle tissue. Okay? And this allows for, it's just completely porous. And it's able to move things in and out. All right? And that's your capillaries there. Again, they're good exchange molecules. Great slide. Okay. But we'll get more into how these things move in and out when we get into respiration. Okay. Simple diffusion, these kinds of things. We'll get in there when we get into respiration there next week. Exchange involving diffusion, substances move downhill from a high to a low concentration. And I don't really want to get into these kinds of things, but anybody offhand know around the percentage of oxygen in the air? Right now? It's around 21%. Okay? And the amount of oxygen coming up your vena cava is basically almost zero. Right? Because it's deoxygenated blood coming up your vena cava. And you've got 20%, 21% oxygen in the air and almost 0% in the blood. Well, things through diffusion, go from a high to a low. So the oxygen in the air just jumps right onto the RBCs. But there's one thing there we'll get into: carbon monoxide, chemical formula CO. I'll explain how dangerous this is. And if you guys don't have a carbon monoxide detector in your place, get one today. If you're renting a place, your landlord has to have it by law. All right? And you notice the tone of my voice. Carbon monoxide detector. Y'all better have one. And if you don't, get one. Because it's deadly. And chemically, it's related to oxygen. And would you believe that if your body had the choice between oxygen and carbon monoxide, it would choose carbon monoxide? That's why it is so dangerous. So, I'll go on that there when I get into respiration more. But again, diffusion, high to a low. That's it. It's free money. All right? Exchange involving filtration and osmosis. Okay, you remember there that osmosis is the movement of water. Nothing else. So, and they use this example here of, a hypodermic needle. Okay, and you put pressure here. The plunger elevates pressure in the barrel. So you push on the barrel here. The pressure inside increases. So therefore now the water jumps out. Okay. The heart elevates the pressure in the aorta and pushes the blood through the systemic system. It's the same banana. Same thing. All right. And the heart is not only pushing the blood through your system, right? The systemic system, the pulmonary system. It's pushing all this blood to my big toe where it needs to go. But it is also adding that pressure so that when the blood does get to my big toe, it has just a little bit more pressure so that all the nutrients in the blood that need to go, they can make the jump. Because once they kind of get into the cell, that's the end of the line. Okay, that's where the pressure ends. Because you remember that slide there, the aorta, the arteries, the arterioles, and then the capillaries, and then the veins. There's no pressure in there at all. Zip. Well, there's a little, but not much to do anything with it. The amount of pressure in the veins can't even get the blood back to the heart. You got to move skeletally to get that blood back to the heart. Edema. Okay, you guys can have a look at this. Where you guys are going to be dealing with edema. It's quite common in elderly people people working in retirement homes and these kinds of things. The forces that determine the movement of water across capillary walls are disrupted. Heart failure, severe burns are bad across the board. Kidney disease, blocked lymph drainage. And you're thinking they're blocked lymph drainage. It does happen. And I was watching a great show, Dr. Pimple Popper. All right. And this guy had, I don't call it a pimple, but it wasn't. It was about the size of a honeydew melon on the back of his back. And he'd always wear a towel. The nicest guy you ever saw, man. He'd wear a towel on his back because he had this lump. But it was a blocked lymph drain. And the lymph was blocked, couldn't get through, and so it was just accumulating here. So these things do happen. And Dr. Pimple Popper couldn't help him, but she sent him off, and he's doing good. Great show. Blocked lymph drainage here. Y'all can read about this there. We've got lymphedema after removal of lymph nodes here. You guys can have a look at this. I don't think I'm going to ask you guys anything on lymph draining. Distribution of blood flow at rest. This is a good one here. I actually have a better slide and I didn't include it here. But just to show you where blood flow is at any given point in time. It's quite amazing. And you guys can just have a look at the different percentages. and then compare it to blood flow during exercise. All right. And you'll see there, normal, the abdomen has about 1/4 of the blood. Skeletal has about 20%. Kidneys have about 20% all the time. Those greedy kidneys. But then you start running and playing, all of a sudden now the blood goes to the extremities, which is the whole point there. Mama always said, don't you dare go swimming until at least a half an hour after you eat lunch, correct? Well, when you eat lunch, you got a banana in your stomach. What happens? All the blood in your body goes right to your tummy, right? It goes right to the small intestine there. We've got to get those nutrients out. We've got a process to deal with here. That banana needs to be absorbed. Well, if you're absorbing a banana, that's where your blood is. You don't have any blood in your arms and legs. Well, you do, but limited, smaller amounts. And if you're in a swimming situation and you're digesting a banana with less arms and less blood in your arms and legs, there's a possibility there that you could be in trouble. You can't keep yourself up. Okay? Don't mess with mama. What do we got here? Blood vessels, they regulate temperature. The vasodilation. Okay? When it's hot, the blood vessels expand. Right? So now you actually have more surface area of that tube, right? And if you've got more surface area, now you're closer to the skin for heat dissipation, but then you've got more surface area there for heat dissipation. All right? The opposite happens there in cold weather. You get vasoconstriction. All those veins, all the arteries tend to sink down into the middle of your arm or leg or whatever, just to try and keep warm. Okay, so that's what's going on there, and that's all I got there for today. Stick around if you guys have any questions. I'm proud of you guys. You guys just keep on trucking, and we got a test there next week that'll open at 8 a.m. I promise. It's pretty bad when your Blackboard person says, yeah, sorry, Blackboard has all these glitches and I didn't tell you about that. Yeah. But everything is good. I hope you guys... Sorry, I'm just reading comments here. Test base is... Yeah, use your test base is 120/80 for normal heart rate. That's fine. It's all good. Yes, butter does taste good, Joanna. I love it too. Yes. But I hope you guys are doing well. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. Other than that, I got nothing. Just keep on trucking, man. You guys are just doing awesome. Okay? Thanks, guys. I'll post this there to YouTube now. And other than that, stay out of the heat, will ya? Stay out of the heat.
Sorry.
Yeah. You guys got questions?
The videos that you wanted us to post or watch, unfortunately, it is asking us for a login.
Is it, eh?
We aren't able to get in to see them.
Okay. Now, my question is, the videos, were they working there the last week? The videos there that I posted? Sure. Okay. Because if they're not, then I'll try and I'll see what I can do on my end. But I want you guys to have access to those. So, sorry, who was speaking there? Who was chatting with me right there? Was it Erica?
That was me.
Okay, so Erica, can you do me a favor? Instead of me getting 100 emails, can you shoot me an email? And what I'll do is I'll do some tests. You'll be my guinea pig, and then I can. I'm going to send you some links and see if you can access them.
Okay, I think that was Laura, actually.
Oh, was it? Was it Laura? Sorry.
Yeah, it was. That's okay.
Okay, Laura, you're on the hook. Erica, you're free. There you go. All right, so Laura, shoot me an email, and I'll use you as my tester, and then once we have some results, then I'll send an announcement out, and I'll get you guys. We'll get those videos sorted there today. Erica, did you have a question? No, you're good? All right, Laura, you're good. If you guys are good, get out of here. We'll see you all again. All right?
Have a good day.
You as well. Stay out of the heat.
I am.
Bye, guys. Thank you.